What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and today we're out in the field trying to figure out what is happening with my forehand right now, and like, how do we fix it? And also, today is actually April 1st that we're shooting this video, and I am number 11 on the wait list today to play Music City Open in 3 days. So we've really got to figure out this forehand situation. And looking at the weather, there's one other thing that we have to prep for, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Before we dive in, we have to ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Elias? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
My forehand has felt off for, I would say a considerable amount of time at this point. And it started when I put a particular disc in my bag that suddenly I just started getting some inconsistent releases, which puts some seeds of doubt into your head. So you start making some adjustments to throw that particular disc, and then it starts affecting all of your other ones, which led to some questionable decisions later on. Particularly, I'm here actually at Magnolia Links Disc Golf Course and with the soccer fields that are across the street. And the last time I was out here, I played so poorly that I had to give away one of my felons. So then I put another felon in my bag, and it took the problem that I was having with another disc and really just emphasized it even further to suddenly all of my forehands were realistically doing two things. One, they were coming up super short. Two, in order to try to account for that, I just started trying to throw some flexes, so all of my distance forehands were just burning over. Now, I'm not the first person who has had troubles with their forehand, and I'm certainly not gonna be the last one. And even if you're a player watching this video and you're like, well, I don't throw forehands, so I'm gonna go ahead and click off. I think the same thing could be applied to a backhand, where you have a particular shot that you are just not really feeling. And so rather than taking some time to go out there and actually fix it, you find yourself just playing more and more rounds and getting more and more frustrated. Problem with this is that unless you're playing like, honestly, a super boring course where it's just super flat and there isn't a lot of shot shaping, it's just wide open hyzers and things like that, I would say that you're not necessarily solving the issue, which might be that you have some form of a release, something or other that's messed up. Because if I'm constantly trying to adjust the angles that I'm throwing in order to match different lines on the course, then I'm making those adjustments while also not able to figure out what's happening with just sort of the stock standard form of the throw. Once again, I've said it so many times, so many problems. So welcome to the doctor's office, where today we are gonna start short and start slow and inside of certain ranges and start throwing some shots just to see how they feel. And then we're gonna keep working our way out farther till we've thrown all of the discs that we throw on forehand in our bag. And once again, you could do this on backhand as well until we find the issue. And once we find the issue, we'll make sure that we work that out to get some more confidence back to it. And then we're gonna address the thing that I'm worried about on the Pro Tour, and I'll show you the method that we're gonna test for that as well. So here's the thing about forehands, is that especially if you have a throw that has caused you any form of injury or anything like that, you can be very sheepish to get back out there and work on that over and over again, because it really could just sort of bring up a fear that, oh no, I'm gonna mess it up. And that's how I've been with forehands. I did not injure myself throwing forehands. I injured myself trying to do something with backhand distance. But what my forehand was doing probably was putting strain on certain parts of my elbow, but my backhand definitely blew some things open inside of there, and then the forehand just continued to agitate those, and it didn't allow it to ever heal. So I had to take a long time off of throwing forehands in order to let everything heal. And then once it did heal, I was back to throwing pretty much probably 75, 80% of what I wanted to throw. And I really never put the time in to come back out and do what we're doing here today in order to really find that remaining 15 to 20%. I'll also never forget a conversation with Jake Wolf, who used to be on tour, through a lot of forehands, thumbers, tomahawks, crazy stuff, a lot of sidearm type releases. He talks about trying to make sure that you're constantly keeping the elbow warm, because if you don't keep the elbow warm and all of a sudden you take 30, 40 minutes off and then you have to throw a bomb forehand again, that's gonna put a lot of tension on the elbow, even if you're like used to it. So make sure that you constantly have blood flowing to the elbow and you're throwing that. So we're gonna start off and just throw some chip shots, because these are first forehands of the day. Funsy. Yeah, that disc is so understable, dude. I love it. Feeling warm, we're gonna throw those back, and then let's see what we can do. So on putt and approach shots, realistically, I've got 4 discs that I'm throwing inside of the 280 foot range. I don't really have any mids besides the Justice that I end up throwing on forehands, and the Justice is just a more overstable, reliable version of what my pigs are gonna do. So I wanna make sure that I have this shot dialed 250 feet and in, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw a couple 200 foot shots and just try to park them over and over again, because that's about the distance that I feel like if I can make sure that I'm just not picking up a ton of strokes from there, I'm gonna be about 200 feet away from the basket quite often. Okay, we pulled that really wide. We were just trying to throw it straight. Well, that's much better. That's much better. Right down the middle. Here we go. That one's gonna be significantly shorter, and then Justice. You can just see how much more of the Justice drops out of the sky. But what I like about that is that all 3 of those went wide and then they ended up coming right back down the middle. That's exactly what we're looking for, because I can adjust and control the distances. And as I walk up to this, I knew that Precious Child was gonna be a little shorter than the others. Even the one that got yoinked over there is still not that far. It's about a 20 foot spread maximum between their 2 discs, which is exactly inside of our putting range. And even this one, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. This is about 24 feet away. Still not bad. All it took was about 10 minutes of throwing pigs and upshots like that back and forth, realizing that it was a grip pressure thing as well as a follow through thing. When I was stabby with my hand and just popping it, trying to make sure they're like, whoop, there it is, there's the shot. Let's be honest, when I just said, whoop, there it is, some of you are playing that song in your head right now. But we're about to go upside down, inside out. Let me tell you folks what it's all about. We're talking about fairway drivers, because that's the next important piece that I really got to dial in. And based on the unique problem that I keep teasing later on in the video, we have some different options available, because I realized I don't have any stock felons anymore. This is my main sort of distance felon, and what I like is that it's a felon. So it's gonna go straight for a long time and then it's still gonna fade. So it's gonna have that overstable 9-speed fade. But truly, this is the only one that I have left. I've either given away my others or lost them, however it may be. The only other felons that I have are all really overstable felons, which doesn't fill this slot. I used to always say that another disc, when it goes to sleep at night, dreams of waking up and being a stock felon. And that is the Sexton Firebird. Back when I was on Team Innova, this was the 2021 run, and I stocked up on them because this really was like the perfect run. It was the most overproduced run of Sexton Firebirds that ever got made. Guys, if you're looking for a straight Firebird, this is the one that you're looking for. So I have a couple of these that I want to try today, but I also want to try out the Raptor. And the reason for the Raptor is I have several Raptors, but I didn't end up bagging the Raptor initially because I felt like it was too shallow and I was losing it on sort of the back end of the shot. But it's been a minute since I have tried that theory out. The last time a Raptor made it in my bag, I bought this one at the opening of Foundation Charleston. I wanted to see, okay, with this being here, is the Raptor the choice? And the Raptor does offer something that will come up here in like 2 sections. Now, realistically, I'm stepping up to a felon at anything about 280 to about 330, 340 to try to feel comfortable, because I know I can push it that far. I'm thinking of specifically this weekend, there is a hole that is hole 2, and you're wanting to throw like a forehand or something straight to get out the gap. But the OB is about 350 feet away. So I know that if I throw a distance driver and it flips up or does something squirrely once it gets out in the open, it has a chance of carrying OB. So I'd really love to throw this, but I wanna make sure that I can throw it 300 feet comfortably, or whatever of these options ends up in the back. The other scary part is that if I lose this, like I said, it's the only one that I have. So I would be in trouble this weekend. There we go. About 50 feet farther than we were trying to throw, I guess, really about 100 feet farther, because we were trying to throw 250 before. So let's go Firebirds. Back to the old trusty. Okay, I pulled over on that one a little bit, but it still got back to center, and that's fine. I'm okay that I have to pull over on it a little bit. As long as the distance is still getting there, I can sort of finagle and learn the angles. Like that one I got over on, but it stayed over. Let's try the Raptors. Okay, that one ended up significantly shorter. We're gonna try the UV, or the ZUV something. So what's interesting here is that the Raptors both came out smooth and flat and got back to where we wanted, but they're gonna be significantly shorter. So I'm gonna walk down here. The Raptors are really not that much shorter. I threw the Felons and that better. So I think that the Felon and the Firebird comes with me, but in preparation for Friday, if I've got the cart going, this might be what's in the the touch. Currently bagging 4 distance drivers. I've got 3 Raiders as well as a Orbit Defender. So the Orbit Defender I know is going to be getting some use because there is a hole specifically, I think it's 5. It's like 375 foot flex forehand. So I think that the Defender is going to be doing that because you've got to put this thing on some nasty amounts of anhyzer in order to get it out there. So we're going to test that shot today. I do actually forehand all 3 of these. So we just want to see what they're doing. And specifically, Sharingan has been turning over on me pretty much every single time I throw it. That's the key here, is I want to find what its release angle is to not get it to flip over. So let's start with the problem child. Okay, that was nose up. We didn't really follow through. About 350, that's fine. I think that in looking at the course, they've added a ton of OB, so I don't have to be throwing 400 foot, 450 foot forehands. I just have to be 350 feet controlled. That's my goal. Nope, that one I released like over here. That never stood a chance. I do think an issue that I'm having on my drivers is that I'm thinking about loading my wrist to try to follow through, and then I'm losing the shots back here. I've got to think about following through and committing. So let's go Renegon loaded and just hammer it. Yeah. That's the most overstable, and it's the farthest by like 25 feet. And then Defender, let's just practice hole 5. Okay, not enough anhyzer, that's in a tree. Sick. Final conclusions on the distance drivers. I gotta be honest, we're moving and grooving because I think that the most interesting part of the video is about to come up. I felt like what I was doing on these was when I loaded the wrist and I was coming through, I was firing the hips too early. The hand was getting trapped here. So even when it was trying to fire, it was from a weak position. So what I needed to do is preload the wrist, make sure that I'm coming through and I'm forward facing so that my hit can happen out front. And that created some really solid options. I think based on measuring flight path and things, it's hard to tell how like wide the trees are and things you got to avoid. But if I'm able to rip this one, how I did a couple times there, just putting enough anhyzer on it, seems like it's the right disc for the job. So I'm excited to see these, but all of this could be in jeopardy based on what could be the entire weekend. If you struggle with this, say aloud with me, hello, my name is Robbie C, and I struggle to throw forehands in the rain. Thinking realistically about this Pro Tour course, I want to throw a forehand off the tee on hole 2. I want to throw a forehand into the green. I'm thinking about throwing a forehand off the tee on 3, but not necessarily 4, 5, 9, 10, 13, 15. There's just like a lot of forehands out there. Instead of just getting there and like accepting hopelessness and realizing, hey, I guess I'm gonna be throwing a lot of backhand turnovers, which is one of my weakest shots in terms of like a distance turnover. Why don't we go ahead and prep the conditions? And you may be thinking, well, Mr. YouTube man, nice idea, but it looks pretty sunny and beautiful out there, which is why we brought a bucket and water. 3, 4. Now, I'll be one of the first to admit that playing well in the rain comes down to one word: being prepared. If you have the right equipment, and you have a towel system set up, and you have an umbrella, the odds of you failing in the rain are a lot lower. But I think that there are really 2 schools of thought when it comes to the rain. The one is fully prepared, rain doesn't exist, and this method you are going to be wiping down every disc on every shot. You and your caddy, you're putting in the work, you've brought 15 towels to the round, and you're basically trying to burn through a little under a towel a hole. On the other side, you have the absolute acceptance where you just realize that I'm gonna have to learn how to throw these discs wet, and because of that, you just lean into it. From my personal experience, I found that when there's a little bit of moisture on the disc, it's actually more harmful than if it's completely dry or if it's soaking wet. So what we want to simulate today is, I think that a Pro Tour round already is going to take 3 to 4 hours. When you add rain on top of it, it's going to add probably another hour at least to it. So I just don't know that I'm gonna be able to keep everything dry for 5 hours. So we're going to lean into this side of things because I know how my discs fly if I'm able to achieve this method, and thanks to Fly Towel, I'll have more than enough towels out there in order to keep this method alive. But I wanna make sure that this is something I'm prepared for, especially when it comes to forehands that I know is a weakness in my game. We're gonna throw similar shots once again, and I have most of my bag ready to go. But I mentioned earlier that I think one of the reasons that the Raptors are gonna get the nod over the others is because Discraft discs have that tooling on the inside where the name of the mold and Discraft is all written there. I find that when it's wet, having that little bit of extra traction on the inside of the disc can be super helpful. So I think I'm gonna be leaning on a lot of Discraft discs in order to throw. So let's start with fairway drivers, because why not? Dunk, 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 dunk. We're gonna make sure we're trying to grip, and we're just gonna try to make adjustments as we go. And that right there is what happens. It pops out way back here, so it's a little right. So we have to make sure that we make adjustments. I'm gonna make my adjustments by playing in the rain by adding a little bit tighter grip and doing what I talked about on the distance drivers, and staying a little more in front of the shot. Okay, still early released. That's better. About 20 feet shorter, but it had to be on extreme anhyzer the whole way. Let's see if Discraft comes in clutch, and having the grip is gonna be what we need. Doesn't seem so. Better, but too far right. As tight of OB as we're playing, that could be a problem. Let's try distance drivers. Plop. Let's start with the flippy guy. Much better distance just on anhyzer because we're having to over grip. Instead of this angle, pull it down a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is not building a ton of confidence, which is why we're gonna have plan B. Let's just look at overstable flexor. Can I actually get something to flex? The answer is no. Okay, that's better. Maybe we have to go with something a little less overstable in order to adjust. If forehands aren't gonna work, we have to go to the alternative, backhands. Laser straight for that distance. We can do that all day during the tournament, we'll take it. Laser straight for that distance, we'll take it. Let's try cicada turnover because there are some forehand shots. Okay, just what we thought. Everything's slipping out, so that's gonna be tough. I do think that Stitch is gonna be our MVP this weekend. Too much hyzer, too much nose up, but still got there. So what are our takeaways? Forehands in the rain are not gonna be my friend. So we're gonna be throwing a lot of turnovers. Or what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to live in the middle ground, and we're gonna try to keep certain discs dry and safe until it comes time to throw the most important tee shots for them. The backhands felt fine, so that feels good. We can throw the backhand cicadas over and over again and just throw our 300 to 350 foot shots and feel completely confident. Even the trails, I can put a little more on. I'm just gonna have to make sure that I identify what are the most important holes to throw a forehand off the tee, keep the disc dry to that point, and then try to dry my hand so that I can get a solid release on the forehand. But I mean, the biggest thing is just praying that the rain holds off. So I hope this video was helpful, and I really want to emphasize the front half of the video that is talking, really focusing on if you're struggling, you don't even have to go to a field like this. Get to your course 20, 30 minutes early and just throw a stock form of the shot you're struggling with, whether that's a turnover, a forehand, a straight shot, and just make little micro adjustments while you're doing it and see, okay, if I focus on tightening my grip a little bit, if I focus on my follow through, what does that do and how does that affect the flight? And I promise you, rather than just playing more holes, focusing on the shot itself rather than shaping the shot to the hole, I really do think is gonna hone in that skill or that problem area for you a whole lot faster. So I hope the video was helpful, and I hope that if I made it into the Pro Tour event that I didn't embarrass myself. But as always, I wanna say thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're gonna leave you with the birdie.